Well, good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome everyone to this webinar in our continuing series of ClubExpress overviews. This particular one is going to focus on ClubExpress for chambers of commerce, business networking, and trade associations. Dan will be doing a presentation and he'll touch on some of the newer features that were introduced in the recently introduced 7.5 version. And our agenda is to just do a basic introduction. Then Dan's going to do demonstration, and then we can have a Q&A. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. So the phones are muted. Questions generally should be entered into the chat window. Robert is monitoring the chat window, so he will help to aggregate some of the questions that are being entered into the chat window and either answer them or present them to Dan towards the end of the session so that Dan can address those questions. Now, the recording of this webinar will be available on the ClubExpress site. So if you go to clubexpress.com and click on the resources page, there's tabs here for blogs and recent video tutorials and recent webinars. And so you have the upcoming webinars here and the recent webinars. For example, the ClubExpress version 7.5 overview here. You could watch it on YouTube. So that's a really handy thing to be able to do. And the training videos are also there. We do training videos on deep dives, say on documents or blogs, or I'm working on one now for the advanced content editor. And those are very topic specific. And you can get to them on that same page. Also on your control panel support tab is that same list of videos. Dan, you can say hello to everybody and then share your screen and you're off and running.
Okay, hello everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first of our webinars for 2018. And we should be looking right now at the Northwest Suburbs Chamber of Commerce, which is a completely fake website that we created that we're using for these demos. Now the demo will try and take about 45 minutes or so. And then we'll have some time for questions at the end. But again, as Alan said, if you have questions as we're going along, type them into the chat window, and there'll be time at the end as well to go through all of those questions and answers. This particular session is going to be focused on chambers of commerce, on business networking groups, and on trade associations. And we're going to highlight the business directory module that we introduced last month with the new update to ClubExpress. This was actually our 50th update, which is a pretty nice milestone. We've been doing this now for almost 14 years. In March, it'll be 14 years. And we release new features on average every 3 to 4 months. So what we're looking at here is the public side of the website. And ClubExpress gives you all of the tools necessary to build and maintain a nice, modern, mobile responsive website to promote the organization. And in this case, we have a page with a custom design. We have the ability to join online, and you can select a member type and then start stepping through the whole process. We also allow members to log in to the members part of the website, which I'll show you in a moment. And this part of the website can have as many pages as you want. So for example, we have a page called About Us, and you can build out that page. We could jump to a page that looks at board members, which are part of a committee. We have a very powerful event calendar that allows you to create events, organize them into different categories, and then also allow people to register and pay for those events online. So we could look for a networking social, and here are the details of that event. If registration was available, you'd see a register now button over here. Now, one of the most powerful, and again, this part of the website can be as big as you want with as many pages as you want. We can also support photo albums. And there are about 22 modules built into ClubExpress that are all included as well. And the whole idea with modules is that you activate them, you configure them, and you just use them. There's no programming involved. So the member sign-up, which we looked at, and the event calendar, which we also looked at, are examples of modules. The Contact Us page is an example of a module. So people have a secure way of sending an email to one of the contacts within the organization. Now, the newest module is this one called the Business Directory. And of course, the name of the module can be changed. And in this case, we changed it to Chamber Directory. And we start out with a number of search options. So you can search by business description or business name. You can search by category. And the system actually includes a default list of categories, you know, a standard list that we downloaded from a government website. And you can also add to these categories, and you can also turn off the standard list. And I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on. So a Chamber of Commerce, for example, might use the standard list. And let's find financial services and products and click search. And what we end up with is a map that shows us the area. And there's a couple of businesses listed here. This is an accounting firm. And down here is another accounting firm. And if we scroll down, we can see a couple of these as well. And for each of these businesses, you could click on the name of the business or on the logo or image that they've uploaded, and it takes us to a detailed screen that shows us, first of all, Smith Accounting is in these categories and subcategory, this category and subcategory, the details about the business, what languages are spoken. This is an optional feature that you can turn on or off. A description about the business, special offers, things like that. Now we could also click on either of these icons, these options here, to jump back and search on that category. We can click on the email address. If the website was listed, we could click on the website as well. If I go back here, you'll notice also that there's an email icon here and a website icon here that would allow us to jump to the email address or website. So this is a very, very powerful directory. And for a typical Chamber of Commerce, 100, 200, 300 members, you'd really be able to highlight all of your members in the area and allow people to search for them in different ways. So for example, these are the master categories here, and you can see about 20, 25 categories. But if I select financial services, now we have subcategories as well. So within financial services, there are a number of subcategories. I think the total list of categories and subcategories is about 500. And so it should cover most needs. But you can also, as I said, expand the list by adding your own categories and subcategories if you have someone in a specific business who might not be represented by the standard list. And you can also turn off the standard list completely. So for example, if you're a trade association involved in, let's say, the petroleum industry, and you have members who provide services to businesses in the petroleum industry, you could turn off the standard categories and then just create your own categories and subcategories that specifically focus on that vertical market. There is also, as you notice here, some zip code searching. So you could say, I want to find everybody that's within 5 miles of a specific zip code, and the system will do that search as well. So again, this is the public side of the website, and we give you all of the tools necessary to build and maintain this so that you can promote the chamber, the members, the local community, the benefits of establishing a business in that community. Now, when I click member login, it actually logged me in straight away, which I should have fixed before we started the demo, so I apologize for that. But typically what you would do is you'd see a login page, and it would allow you to log in. And by the way, this demo chamber website is available to you if you want to go in and explore. And Robert, perhaps if I can ask you to post the URL and the login credentials in the chat window, and then everyone can see those and they can potentially go in and explore on their own. In this case, the system logged me in directly, and now we're on the second part of the website here. And the second part of the website is for members only. Every member has their own username and password. And so when they log in, the system immediately knows who's logged in. I'm Martin Smith in this case. You'll notice that the menu is different because the set of features that you give to members is going to be different from what you make available to non-members. So for example, another one of these modules that we have is our document library module. And we could click on a folder and it would show us a series of documents that's available in this folder. And you can have as many folders and subfolders as you want and as many documents as you want. There's no limits on any of that stuff. And again, no programming at all. It's all very interactive. We also have a very nice discussion forums module so that you can establish discussions among members about issues that are important in the community and to the chamber itself. Again, this part of the website can be as big as you want with as many modules, as many pages, photo albums. We don't put any limits on any of that sort of stuff. Now, every member has access to their own personal profile within the system. When I hover over my name, Martin Smith, and then click Profile here, it shows me my profile, and I can have contact info here. So here's the basic contact information. And this is a screen that's formatted for an organization that people join through their business or professional lives. And so you can see the basic contact information and then the company and primary address information as well. You just click cancel. We also have the ability for you to expand the database by adding in your own questions. And so when I select additional member data, I can have as many questions as I want. And the answers can be in any one of about 25 different formats. So what you might want to do is track how long the organization has been in business, how many full-time and part-time employees they have, the sorts of questions that a chamber might ask. And again, you can have as many questions as you need, and there's no programming necessary to create those questions. Now, one of the modules we have in the system is a standard member directory, which is really designed for members to communicate with each other. The chamber directory is a separate set of data. And so when I click on the chamber directory, it allows me to specify the name of the business. Now, I might be a member, let's say I'm a wedding planner, and I work out of my home. I might be Martin Smith as a member of the chamber, but the information that I want to appear in the directory is going to be different. That information might be Smith wedding planners, for example. I can then select one or more categories, and the system will allow me, for example, let's say clothing. I'll just pick something at random here, women's clothing, and then there's an add button, and I can now add it to the list. You can actually control how many categories people can be in. You can limit them to any number of categories, or you can turn that limit off and allow people to select as many categories as they want. And the information that's shown in the directory may be different. So for example, let's say in my wedding planner business, I have a salesperson who deals with potential, with couples getting ready to be married. And so even though I'm the member of the Chamber of Commerce, the salesperson might be, Kimberly Jones, and that's the name that I want to publish in the directory. If we're a virtual organization, I might not publish an address at all. So I could turn the address off and not show a full address in the system, maybe just show the city and state. I can also obviously geocode so that I appear on the map. You'll notice that the only thing that's required here is the business name and at least one category. None of these other fields are required. They don't have a red dot next to them. And so you can decide whether you include a phone number, an email address, a website, whether you include links to the major social networks. In this case, the languages spoken field is turned on, and so we can list the languages spoken, any special offers. Do I want to appear in the directory? Yes or no. You can actually turn yourself off if you don't want to appear in the directory. You can upload an image, a very detailed and formatted description. So you can include links and full formatting, even images that you upload, bulleted lists, numbered lists, and this really can be, I think, up to 4,000 characters long. And then if you save that information, then that's what will appear for this business in the directory. In this case, I'm going to click cancel. Now, the profile screen also shows a number of other options here. So we can see full transaction and payment history. event history. If you enable the forums module, then members would see this panel, and they can specify their memberships in forums and their general preferences. They can update the username and password. We have an optional jobs board module that allows you as a chamber to post jobs through the website that members might be looking to fill. And there's a manual and even a video tutorial that explains how all of this stuff works for members. Okay, now let's have a quick look at a module just to explain how this works. We looked at the document module earlier, and I selected village improvements, and I can see the documents in that module. Now, the idea with every one of these modules is that it has a user side and it has an admin side. And in this case, we're looking at the user side, which could be members only, or it could be the public as well. And one way of getting to the admin side is I go to my Page Tools widget over on the right-hand side here, and there's an edit icon at the bottom. Now, this icon only appears for someone who has admin rights. So I'm going to click Edit, and now I go to the admin side of the module. And here we see a list of folders. And if I hover over a folder and click the mouse, I can edit the folder properties, and I see a list of the properties for this folder. Its name, its description, its visibility. There's lots of options here for visibility. Can members upload documents, yes or no? And then various other settings as well. And I can also go back here, click the mouse again, and go to View Documents. And now I'm going to see a list of documents in this folder. And there's a button at the top that allows us to add a new document to the folder, specify its title, its description, tags, its visibility, and then I select the document from my local hard disk and it gets uploaded automatically. And in the grid here, we see the name of the document, various properties of the document, and then there's some icons at the end, and usually next to the word maintain is another icon that gives you a legend of what all these icons actually mean. So you can edit the properties of the document, you can view it, you can copy the URL, and various things like this, like that. The interesting thing about this admin screen is that, first of all, in terms of the module itself, in the space of about 5 screens, I've shown you everything that you need to do to upload and create a library on your chamber or your trade association website with no programming. And that's the whole idea about how modules work. Secondly, this admin screen is the standard format that we use throughout the system. So there are buttons at the top, there's a grid with a maintain column, a legend, and various operations that you can do. And the third thing that's important here is that every module works the same way. And so basically, I've now shown you how to use every one of these modules. So for example, we can go back to the chamber directory, and if I go to the edit side of that directory, I see a list of the standard categories. I could turn off the system categories, and now I'd get my built-in categories. I can turn the system categories back on again. And within each category, we see the number of types, and we could drill down. For example, I can look at financial services and products, and I can see those system types. And so maybe I could add a new type here. Let's say Bitcoin trading, because Bitcoin apparently is pretty hot right now. And so now I see a new option here, Bitcoin trading, and I see an edit and a delete icon because that's one that I specifically added. When I go back here, again, here's where you add top-level categories. There's a couple of reports built in, and there's also an options screen. And the options screen controls how the directory works. So for example, do we want the results to be shown in a list format or in that business card grid format that we saw earlier? Do we want to use the map, yes or no? Do we want to use system categories, yes or no? I've mentioned languages spoken a couple of times. Here is where you can control the maximum categories. If you set that to 0, then people can add as many categories as they want. And you can also filter who appears in the directory by member type. Now, a Chamber of Commerce, for example, might have a staff member type for someone who's employed, as the executive director, and he or she would not appear in the directory because they're not actually a business, they're a staff person. And so you could turn that member type off. We do have a number of organizations running on ClubExpress that are car clubs, for example, where people join through their personal lives. But they also have a sponsor member type, people who provide services to members. And you could activate the Chamber directory, the business directory module, and just enable that member type. And so only the sponsors appear in the directory, and all of those people who joined through their personal lives would not appear in the directory. And so this, again, is the admin side of the module. Let's scroll down to the bottom. I'll just click cancel. And again, now we're back on the main admin screen. And again, all of these modules, these 22, 23 modules that we have, all essentially work the same way. So what we've looked at very quickly, let me just recap. We looked at the public side of the website. And in a moment, I can show you the tools of how you create and maintain the public side of the website. We looked at the members side of the website, the same tools after we logged in. We looked at the member profile screen and how members update their information in the system. And then we looked at a couple of examples of modules and how they work in the system as well. Now, for the next 15, 20 minutes or so, I want to look at the administrative control panel. ClubExpress supports 7 levels of security, and you can have as many people as you need at each level. And it turns out that Martin is a full administrator, so he really can do everything. Someone who would be a lower level of security in the system, they would still see the control panel, but some of these tabs might be missing. And within these tabs, some of these options might be missing because someone might not have rights to all of those options. And the system is very dynamic that way. You can really make the security rights very granular if you need. Now let's do a quick orientation to the control panel. And again, if you decide to come back to the demo chamber, you can explore a lot of these choices on your own. The control panel has 6 tabs, and each tab essentially reflects what you do on that tab. So the people tab is where you manage members and non-members. The website tab, obviously, the website itself. The first 5 of these tabs have exactly the same layout and icons. The support tab is a little bit different. It shows you all of our support resources, including the online help system. So every one of these admin screens has an online help screen, and you get to it by clicking the help option here over on the right-hand side. We also have traditional old-style software manuals that you can download. We really recommend that you don't print them, first of all, because they're huge, and secondly, because they change on a regular basis as we add new features. And then we have the video tutorials down here, and you can expand each one of these categories and see, watch the videos. And Alan has been working very diligently on creating new videos and updating some of our existing videos that were a little bit out of date. And, we're going to continue on that project for a while now. We want to make sure that we have video tutorials on really every major part of the system. Right now, there's about 50 of them. Ultimately, we could easily have double that many. We have an administrator forum that allows admins to talk to each other across clubs. And then, of course, our contact information. And just to reiterate something that people sometimes forget, and that is that the ClubExpress monthly hosting fee includes unlimited toll-free support. So if you ever have a question and the videos or the help system or the manuals, don't answer that question for you, then feel free to call our office here in Chicago, and our very experienced and friendly support team would be happy to, answer that question and help you get that particular feature working. So let's go back to the People tab. And in the admin functions panel are things that you do on a regular basis. And when you see the pencil icon, that's the admin screen, that's the edit screen. If you see the eyeball, that's the user screen. So wherever you see both of them, these are modules. I mentioned before, 22 modules. Committees, interests, forums, donations, the standard member directory or the chamber directory, surveys, volunteering, member sign-up. These are all modules that are available. This little people icon here allows you to create a coordinator for just that function. And the wrench icon has some advanced settings. So for example, if we don't want to say chamber directory, but rather we want to say business directory, I can change that very easily. Oops, sorry. Let's do it that way. And when I click save, now on the menu it says business directory instead of chamber directory. Now when you see the reports section, these are reports specifically related to people. ClubExpress includes about 400 reports. They each have filtering options that are appropriate for the report, sorting options, and 5 different output options. And when we go to the setup section, these are things that you do at the very beginning or very rarely, and so we put them out of the way at the bottom, and they're admin screens only. And again, up at the top here, when we see Member Manager, that's an admin screen only. It's not a module. It doesn't have an eyeball icon. Now, if I click Member Manager, and I can click the text or the pencil, it's going to take me to the actual membership database for the organization. It's securely built in behind the scenes. It's an admin screen only. And everything feeds off this one database. So you don't have lots of different repositories that you need to update or keep synchronized. The beauty of the system is that everything is stored once and once only. And if you change somebody's email address, then you don't need to worry about changing it in multiple places. Now there's a number of search options up here. There's some advanced filtering. And again, this is an admin screen just like all of the others. And you can see the legend here. We also, by the way, support memberships that include multiple people. And so here, where you see primary member and secondary member, if you're a Chamber of Commerce, one of the things that you might do is define your memberships to allow multiple contact people. So let's say one of your members is a florist, and they have 3 locations within the area, or maybe a dry cleaner, and they have multiple locations within the area. You could set up each of the other locations as a secondary member so that they can log in and maintain their own information, upload a photo of that location. And then each location would be listed in the directory independently rather than just having that person appear in the directory once. The dry cleaner with 3 locations could appear 3 times in the directory. Over here, we see the member, their organization, the member name, and the city and state. And you can click on city and state and see their contact information. Here is the member type, the expiration date, and the membership status. And there's 8 different status values, and the system manages the member status for you automatically. So for example, I could click on member status, and in this case, I can change it. I could freeze, drop, or expire that member, for example. Clicking the pencil icon takes me to that member's profile screen. I can go to their bio screen. I can process renewals or miscellaneous charges. I can run reports specific to that member. And so again, this is the membership database for your organization, securely built in and available to maintain. Let's go back to the control panel, and we also have a parallel non-member database. And the non-member database allows you to keep track of everybody that you need to keep track of who's not a member. So for example, it might be other local government organizations, maybe state government reps, the federal congressman who has his or her office in the area. Maybe it's the executive directors of neighboring chambers or press, for example. And you can create your own categories. The system has a number of categories built in, but we could also create a category, for example, called press. And now that category is here. And when we look at Jim James, I can edit Jim's contact information, but I can also assign Jim to one or more categories. And what I've done now is just assigned Jim to that press category. And so whenever I send out a blast email in the system to everybody in the press category, Jim would get that email automatically. And we also have a number of maintain options here. So you can see that we keep a complete transaction and payment history for non-members as well. There are convert and merge functions. There are cleanup functions over here that you can see. And so a number of tools that allow you to maintain, again, in a central location, a database of everybody that you need to communicate with who's not a member. Now let's go back to the control panel, have a quick look at member types, for example. We have a number of member types in the system. Pretty expensive Chamber of Commerce, I guess. But if I click the edit icon, you'll see a screen here that allows you to manage the properties of a member type. And again, you know, the thing I wanted to point out is that all of this is available without any programming at all. And there's a lot of advanced options built in here. For example, you can have different member types for new members or renewals or admin only. So the staff member type would be admin only. You can have different menus by member type or memberships that require approval. And here is where you define secondary and tertiary members who are attached to the membership. And here's where you define the fees as well. So you fill out a form like this. It's very interactive. It's very straightforward. And the system then manages those member types for you. Back to the control panel, and the same thing with renewal and expiration settings. This is one of those screens that takes a couple of minutes to configure. And once you're done, the system will handle renewals and expirations for you entirely, you know, without any manual intervention. So you can have rolling renewals based on the join date, or you can have everybody renewing on the same date, and you specify when the cycle begins. You can control when the renewal notices get sent out and how they get sent out. And you can also control how the system should handle expirations. So for example, you might give people 30 days beyond their normal expiration before the system will actually expire them. I mentioned earlier that we have the ability to expand the database and ask questions that are unique to your organization. And if I select additional member data, here is where you create those questions. And so how many full-time employees do you have? There's a screen here that allows you to define the question and the type of answer. These are the different answer types that the system supports. Okay. Now you'll find that the other tabs in the system basically behave the same way. And so if I click website, I get tools, you know, the layout of the panels, the icons are exactly the same. The difference is that these are functions related to the website itself. And so we have the ability to update the homepage, to update all of the regular old web pages in the system, custom pages. So we have a page here called About Us, and I could edit that page, and the system will show me our advanced content editor. Let me just expand that so that you can see it. And this editor allows you to create just static content on the website, links, things like that. We have some very powerful tools that are available here. The ability to create panels on the page which are properly formatted so that they work on a computer or a mobile device. We have widgets built into the system. So you could have a widget on the homepage that shows upcoming events, or shows a slideshow of images of the community, or the Chamber's Facebook feed or Twitter feed on the homepage. New or recently renewing members. And we're working on some additional widgets that we'll be adding to this list. And there's a number of tools here on this editor. If you've ever worked with a website design program before, then a lot of this will seem familiar to you. We also have some additional tools that are available that are a bit more advanced, including the ability to drop in audio videos or a YouTube video, for example. All of that's fully supported. The ability to create links, which can sometimes be a little bit tricky if you're building a website manually. Okay, so let's cancel all of this out. And again, you can have as many pages as you want, and you can create coordinators for the page. So let's say, for example, I talked about security earlier. Let's say that someone in the chamber volunteered to maintain a history of your community on the website. You could give that person admin rights to just that page, and they wouldn't need admin rights anywhere else. So let's see, if I type in Jones, I have Barbara Jones here, and what I've done is I've made Barbara Jones a coordinator for this page, and she wouldn't need admin rights anywhere else. Now, here also are the options to upload photos and create photo albums, a few more examples of modules. And then down here in the setup section are where you maintain the overall look and feel of the website, the menus, the graphics that you get, that get uploaded to the website. And again, a series of admin screens and interactive tools that really allow you to update the website at any time. For example, let's go to menus. So for example, let's say I go to the member menu and I take business directory and I move it up a couple of notches, and I take committees off the menu, move it back over here. When I click save, and you'll notice that committees is gone and business directory has moved from the right over here. And I like to show this example just to give you a sense about how easy it is to make these kinds of changes. You shouldn't need to come back to us to make these kinds of changes to the website. Now, if we go to the Money tab, these are all of the functions that allow you to manage transactions and payments and credits, discount coupons, for example, and to manage donations and event registrations. And again, reports that are specifically related to money transactions and payments. If I go to the Club tab, and of course we can change the keyword here, I have functions that relate to the organization as a whole. Some of these modules appear on more than one tab. The event calendar appears on, I think, 3 different tabs. And again, admin functions that relate to the organization as a whole. So for example, I can go to Club Options, and the keyword is Chamber of Commerce. And if I click Save, now you'll notice this says Chamber instead of Club, and a number of different options here and setup functions. And when I go to Communications, this is where we find our blast emailing function. So you can send emailings to members, or members in a category, or non-members in a category as well. And you can filter in lots of different ways. Our blogs function, surveys module, and ad hoc forms module. And again, some setup functions that allow you to manage system emails and some email accounts that are built into the system. And again, I'd encourage you all to take a little bit of time and explore the demo chamber on your own. When you go to the control panel, you shouldn't be afraid of clicking any top-level option, because you certainly can't do any damage. And again, just to remind folks, if you're not yet using ClubExpress, that we do have a 60-day free trial. You do not need a credit card or bank information. So it would allow you to create a website and database for your chamber or your trade association, build it out, explore the different features, show it to the board of directors to get approval that, if you think that this is the right solution for your organization. So what I'd like to do is wrap up the demo part right now, and then let's see if there are any questions. If you want to type your question into the chat window, we can do it that way as well.
I think Cassie is raring to go with some questions because she's been using this new feature. And so Cassie, you want to ask a couple of your questions?
For invoices for the chamber sites, they are going to the individual instead of the business. Is there any way we can fix that?
The invoice will go to the primary member on the membership. Now, if that's the business address, generally it would be the person that a member decides is their primary contact person. That's the model that we use. It's not really something that we can change.
Okay. Is there a way we can go into the communications email and change it? Because everything should be automatic, and we could just go in and change it from the person to the business. Is there a way of backdooring it?
There is not right now. Again, our model is that each membership, even if it's a business, has a primary contact person. That's who those communications should be going to, whoever's designated as the primary person.
Right. Well, what I'm having to do is rewrite my invoices with the business name on it and not the person's name on it, because that's what they want for their records.
Okay. I'm not sure if the invoice, there are renewal emails that can be customized. So you could take the member name off the renewal email and just leave the organization name there. But the invoices right now cannot be customized. Let me make a note to talk to the developers about whether we should have different invoices for organizations that people join through their business or professional lives versus personal lives.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm just taking some notes, but keep going.
So Cassie, you've been working with this. This was introduced about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
What are your general impressions, and how are you're actually from a Chamber of Commerce?
Yes.
How does this fit with what you're trying to do?
It is exactly what I've been trying to do. The member was not working for me, just with just the members, but this new chamber one where you can just see the businesses is working. And I'm slowly, as my membership comes in, I go in and turn on their business so that you can see it.
Are you using it with the mapping function? And have you had? You're relatively new to this. Have you had any feedback from people yet?
Not yet, because I just started working with it this week. So I don't think a lot of people have seen it. I'm sending out a newsletter later today that will direct people to look at it. So hopefully they will.
Okay, we have a question from Mod Moms. Mod Moms has been working on our import from our existing partner directory to our new ClubExpress partner directory. If we have categories we'd like to create, should we import the categories you created and then add new categories after the partner directory is built? We have almost everything else ready for the import.
So, a lot of it depends on how closely the built-in categories, match to your partner categories. If there's a very, very close match, let's say, 85, 90%, then we should import with the existing categories. And then where there's not a match, again, let's say something like a wedding planner, where if there's no matching category within ClubExpress, then there would be a very small number of ones that need to be updated manually. Now, the second thing that I should mention is that the business directory does not have an import function. We can import that data for you. We can do a mass import for you. There would be a small fee for that. We can also, for those organizations that are just getting started with ClubExpress, we can import business directory data as part of your member import. And then there wouldn't be a fee because it would be part of the import that we're doing of the basic member records. There's a couple of things to keep in mind in terms of importing. And that is that anything that's a big text field, like the description of the business, the discounts that you offer for members, anything like that is not going to be something we can import, because the import has to be done using a format that doesn't allow for carriage returns, line feeds, embedded formatting, and things like that. So all of the data that's plain text and relatively short, like name and address and things like that can all be imported. But the business descriptions, the discounts, also the image or the photo, those would need to be updated manually.
Are there any other questions? We know that this is new to people, and that's one of the reasons we do an overview, so people get a sense of what's available, because this module is now part of the basic platform. Dan, you want to talk just about a minute about the software as service model and how you enable and disable particular modules?
Let's do that briefly. Every organization that runs on ClubExpress has their own website and their own database. And there are thousands of them running on the platform. But in fact, there is only one copy of ClubExpress, and there is only one website, and there's only one database. It just looks different for every organization. And so the Northwest Chamber of Commerce website is actually behind the scenes the same website as the Car Club or the Rotary Club or Psychological Association or Medical Association or whatever. The system actually keeps your data separate and makes the website look different for each person. What that means is that when we introduce new functionality or we add a new module, and again, we do that on average every 3 to 4 months, we add that to the platform and it's immediately available to every organization. And so again, we're sharing the screen here. If I go back to the People tab, 4 weeks ago, Business Directory simply wasn't here. We did an update to the system and then Business Directory appeared for everybody. Now, initially, it would have been turned off. So I can disable the module, click OK, and it would have been there and it would have been not enabled for anyone. And we tell people that this new functionality is there, the manual's been updated, the help system's been updated, have fun, enjoy, and people can go in, they can enable the module, and when I click Save, now the module is enabled, it reappears on the menu. Actually, it didn't appear on the menu. I might have to activate it again on the menu. And, you know, that's the way the model works. We add these functions and they appear for everybody, but you're not forced to use them. If you don't want to use the business directory, you just leave it disabled. Now, we also have the ability to create modules or functionality that are unique to a specific organization. And we've done that, you know, probably a couple of hundred times. I talk about 20, 22 modules built into the system. There are actually about 200 modules in the system, but a large number of them, the vast majority, are only visible to one particular association because they have a very specific need and they came to us and said, you know, will you build this for us? And we did that custom programming. There was a programming fee to do that. So I'll give you an example. We have a professional association in the arts community where we built a complete online research database for them to track, you know, books and articles and research papers and PhD theses in that particular field, and it's available to them only. Now we do have some of those modules that might be of interest to other clubs and associations, and if you go to the support tab and download this particular manual here, what we call the extra cost features manual. That manual lists about 15 modules that we wrote for one club or association, but that might be of interest to other types of organizations. And they're available to be added to the system for a one-time fee, which we then, you know, turn around and reimburse the association that fronted the initial investment to build that functionality. Okay. And I should mention, by the way, that we're also, you know, the development team is hard at work on the next round of enhancements. We're working on some major updates to the event calendar. We're working on an internationalization project so that ClubExpress works well for organizations in Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, countries like that, English-speaking countries right now. And, you know, a number of other things that we're working on, new widgets I mentioned earlier, and, you know, more features like that. So.
And just to let you know, we just got a comment in the chat room that says a shout out to Robert for all of his incredible help as he's been working with us on our partner directory. So this is a very nice thing that people really do appreciate, the rather almost concierge level help that our support staff gives people. And the other thing is that not only can your administrators and coordinators call or contact ClubExpress if they need help, your members can contact ClubExpress if they don't know how to update the renewal or something like that. On the Contact Us page, it invites them to call also, and that's a very unusual thing for a platform like ClubExpress.
I actually have a quick question. Since businesses are tied to the members' profiles, when you run a report on your members, would the business info be pulled on those reports?
The question is, when you run a report on your members, is the business information included in that report? The answer is no. The business directory has its own set of reports, and so you can run those reports to view the business information. And again, the large text fields like the description of the business with its formatting would generally not be included in that report, but all of the other information will be included. Well, again, everyone, thank you for joining us for this particular webinar. Alan will mention we've got a couple of other webinars scheduled for January, and we'll be putting out the schedule for February and March fairly soon. So look out for those, and register if you're interested in the topics. And again, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful new year, and we look forward to talking with you in the future.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll see you soon.